And we are live. Yeah, we're here. Um, awesome. Well, so we'll go ahead and kick this off. We're like waiting on. This seems to be the going theme this week. So Jeff Levin, who is the CEO of LegalVerse, he actually had to pull out. He had some other things that came up, and Mike Haubenschild, he's running a few minutes behind, but I didn't want to, put this off any longer. It's already 7:03, so we'll go ahead and jump in. Um, Up front, again, ask everybody who's watching, please like it, share it on whatever platform you're on. I like to keep doing these. Like I really like bringing everybody together and bringing people. So if you're listening, if you're watching, like bring you guys into the discussion. We don't know if you're there except for this little like ticker up in the corner. Um, so if you drop comments in there, we can see them. So Cole, what's up, man?
What's up, dude?
Man, not much, man. I'll give you a quick rundown of the platform here. Like on the right hand side, we've got comments, so you'll be able to see if anybody pops comments in there, and we can actually pull them in, pull them on, and then yeah. So, man, I really like doing these and like getting everybody together because we all we can all come together and have this sort of panel type discussion about something. None of us have really met before. If we could have had everybody else on, hopefully Mike can hop on here real soon. And you and Mike don't know each other. I'm the
No.
only connection between you guys. Um, you guys are like in completely different worlds. And so I just really like doing that and finding people in different industries who are experienced in the same crap, and we can find a lot of overlap and then find a lot of application across it. So today we're going to talk about building really high performing teams and maybe leading with empathy and just kind of like see where that goes, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So while we're waiting on Mike, who says he's ran into some issues and he's about a couple minutes behind, I'm so sorry. I'm going to hold him to that, and he's going to apologize to everybody also. Right on. Carter Wright is with us. Got you loud and clear. Sweet,
Nice.
man. So like we're talking about this like building high performing teams and leading with empathy. And I immediately when I think of teams, like I think of sports, right?
Oh, for sure.
For sure, right?
I mean, we're athletes. Like that's how our brains think immediately, no matter what.
Yeah. And like high performing is definitely a thing in sports. You're trying to win. Winning matters, right?
Oh, I mean, I would say always, but not that's not actually true.
Right on. So like building high performing teams in sports. Like tell us like I don't know. Tell us about Cole, man. Tell us about you. What do you do in your day job? What do you do with coaching? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So day job, I'm an accountant. Work for a local firm that my mom established. She started from the scratch, and then at night, I guess kind of like Batman. I mean, at daytime, I'm dealing with money. At night, I'm coaching kids, playing hockey, and all that kind of fun stuff. So two different worlds entirely. So I mean, you got analytical and the accounting side, and then more of like you're saying, empathetic, kind of thinking with more of how to deal with people at night. So
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
As an accountant, man, where do you sit working with people? Like, what's that like? Like working with people? Do you have to connect?
Yeah.
People be a connector.
Yeah. I mean, so I'd say like traditionally, accountants, like if you were to go, I would even think like 20 years ago, accounting was like, hey, let me get your papers, let me deal with your stuff, and then I'm gonna give it back to you. There was no interaction at all, and it wasn't really that helpful, wasn't really as engaging. Whereas now it's like, hey, let me talk with you. Like I get phone calls with the clients, and maybe like a 10-minute phone call with them, even if they meant to call real quick, it was 10 minutes, but in all reality, it's 2 minutes talking about that tax problem or that tax issue, and then it's 8 minutes just talking with them as a person. Like, hey, like I had one client, he wanted stuff to be picked up today. He realized he's still in Hawaii. Like So we're busting chops with each other. Like, I mean, like it's that engagement with that client and not just being like, hey, let me get your stuff. Let me sort your stuff out. And now it's on to you. It's actually engaging with them. So what's up?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. Look who's here.
I know, making dinner for the family and then, a little bit of meltdown here and there, but I made it, so
Yeah, dude, the meltdowns are the best.
it's good. It's my favorite. But that's all right. Good to meet you. I'm Mike, by the way. I don't know if we've met yet.
Cool. No, haven't.
Cool. Nice to meet you. Graham, how you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome, man. Doing real awesome. Dude, I'm digging, like, is this a mustache or is this just everything growing out?
This is like I shave every like 3 or 4 days because I'm on con leave
awesome.
and I can't grow a real beard because I have bad genes. So I'll say it's a mustache. Let's say it's a mustache.
Okay, well, yeah, you don't look bad with a mustache, man.
Oh, that's not a good thing either. That's not really a compliment.
Oh, crap.
Good. That's great to see you, man. I love that you got what is that? That's clip. You got your stickers in the back. You got your, everything here, and then you've got your snowboard. I love it. That just encompasses Graham right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even got a hockey stick around here.
Yeah,
there you go. There you go.
There you go.
Ever tell you that my uncle coached the Olympic sled hockey team, like a couple years in Sochi? Yeah.
Humble brag. Just humble. Just slip that underneath. Like, I mean, I can fucking stuff too. What are we doing here? This is
Dude, tell us about that. Tell us about that.
He played for in the Winter Olympics, or he played in a hockey, Olympics. Gosh, I can't remember if it was the early '80s or something along the lines. And he was,
it's a big
played
time
there
for hockey in the Olympics.
Dude, yeah, it was pretty cool.
It just keeps building of coolness. You're like, yeah, he like won the gold, not a big deal. Like, it's
no, it was just bronze. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, he didn't medal, but he was I can't remember what he did, but like the thing I get told every single time that I get brought up is he was like one of the only dudes to fight during the Olympics, which I think is really cool, So, but he played, hockey, and then was coaching for a little bit. He was playing for a while. But blew out his knee, so that kind of ended his career with some stuff. So he started coaching, and one thing led to another. He ended up, coaching with U.S. U.S. hockey Olympic team, and he ended up leading to the gold medal in Sochi. It's pretty cool. So for Paralympics, of course. So it was really, really fun to watch. These dudes. He had like 5 or 6 like really good like veteran dudes who are, had some injuries, and it was cool. It was awesome.
That's dope.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, so I introduced this whole thing, and then I told everybody that you would apologize for being late.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. From the bottom of my heart, I really am.
The coolest story ever. Like,
that's honestly. So it's in the back. It's in the back pocket in case I ever got to like make some.
Yes,
So.
Did they mention they mention that people coach in the Olympics? No big deal. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's a fish story too. So it's like he won 2 gold medals next time.
Yeah.
So.
It was this big.
Yeah, it was.
Right on. So like we're talking today like about building high performing teams and really leading with empathy. I said like I thought of Cole immediately, not because like I said I'm an accountant and I have that song stuck in my head, right? Every time I hear I'm an accountant, like that's what because when I tell people that, they don't ask a lot of questions. Where do you work? At a place where accountants work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So but I thought of Cole, man, because you honestly like you are the best hockey coach that I've ever ran into, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. And that's like I mean that to say like I want to play my kids up levels so they can play on your team. I want to get them on your team so that I can help you coach, so that I can also like listen. And because I like kind of like good, I want to get in line too.
Yeah.
but it's not just the hockey theory that you're a great coach. I want my kids to play on your team because you're an awesome leader, and you're able to like really like pull this group of kids,
Yeah.
right, really immature boys and girls together and like put them into positions where they don't just benefit themselves, but they benefit other people.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's like completely awesome. And Mike, man, Commander, like I wrote in here Commander. Like, what can I put up here so I can say, what do you want me to put in here?
As far as my title,
Yeah.
I'm
Olympic
kind of
gold
unemployed
adjacent.
right now.
Unemployed and motivated leader of other motivated people.
There you go. Is that going to pop up?
It's long, so it's gonna have to scroll.
I love it.
And Olympic gold adjacent, just keep that going too.
Yeah. Honestly though, yeah, he had a ring. I held it once.
All right.
Okay, I'll take it. Cool.
All right, right on. Yeah, so right now it looks like there's like a couple people listening on LinkedIn. If you guys want to participate in this discussion, like ask questions, we're going to bring them in. We'll answer them here on the live stream also. But please comment, drop stuff there so we know that you're there and we know that people are listening. So let's go into this. Like, Mike, you mentioned like, man, Olympic blood in your, family.
By marriage. By marriage.
Okay. Well, have you got any like nuggets from like team building dropped on you
from him? Oh my gosh. Yeah. My uncle Guy is his name. He's outstanding. And it's not even
is his name really Uncle Guy?
I call it title Guy Uncle, or title is Uncle and then name is Guy. Yeah. So GUY. Yeah, great guy.
Uncle
so he
Guy.
is a great guy, Uncle Guy. Yeah, he's you can just kind of see it from him. One of the things that really like comes to mind when I hang out with him is like he's just got this really awesome like personality that you want to be around, right? Super encouraging. Really like makes you feel like you can. I don't know, just like have a conversation with him, and you would never have any idea that he was any sort of guy who was, coaching any sort of like crazy successful team like that, So I think like the biggest thing I pulled from him is just this humility, and then like a bit like just willingness to bring people together and just have a good time doing whatever we are doing. I could see him. He's one of those guys where I could not see him like quite literally for a decade. And then it's like I haven't missed a day in his life. He pulls me up and he's just, an awesome guy, to be around. And he's like super complimentary, really excited to see you, one of those guys. It's really awesome.
That's awesome.
What's his comment say? I was carrying the Olympic torch for his uncle before. Yeah, I was actually. I didn't want to bring that part up. I was hoping for my next podcast when I'd be late there, They wouldn't give me skates, so I did it barefooted.
I didn't realize anyone was watching.
Yeah.
That's cool. So like, I love that. Be someone that people want to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right on.
That's absolutely him. Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. Cole, what about you, man? Like you think of building a team, what's one of the first things that you do when you know, like, okay, I'm getting ready to take charge of this group of people and we're going to do something awesome?
Well, so, for coaching, every year, everyone's, especially hockey players, have watched the Miracle movie, right? Especially there was just recently, just remembrance of like 40-something years since it, right? Like, it's, so one of the things I kind of took from him, and even my dad when he coached, was the idea of taking a quiz in the beginning. Like, it's not really a personality quiz, but in a sense it is. Like, so, he even does it, like in the movie, he talks about like, the goalie doesn't, Craig doesn't take it. And he's like, well, in a sense you did, just take it for me. Like I know who you are now. And so for me is like, I need to figure out kind of what makes each player tick. Like, because everyone has a different drive and a different, reason to be there, and what's going to put them in that place to to do what's beneficial for them or the team. And so I got to figure that out. So my quiz is more of, my dad's a counselor, and I've kind of sucked his brain in the sense of like pick stuff out of it of, hey, what works psychology wise. So I pull some fun stuff out for them to ask them, like, hey, what's your favorite, music? What's your favorite movie? Like, kind of get that going. But then like, what's your goal for the season? Like, so they're jokingly putting, like, oh, Super Troopers, or like, Step Brothers. They put funny movies that they think are hilarious. Okay, cool. But then like they get into serious question. And then this year I got really into it. I actually looked up some psychological questions, like personality wise, like you see someone hurt, on the side of the road. What do you do? Because I always want to see what do they do. A lot of kids this age, 16s, they'll do some silly stuff. But then there were some questions and the answers that like I wasn't expecting at all from that kid. Like in my head, you have that preconceived idea of like who that kid is based off of seeing them skate maybe like 3 or 4 times. And then all of a sudden they answer this question. You're like, okay, like not who I thought. And now how I interact with you might change just a little bit, but for the better. Like now I know how to put a little fire underneath you and how to engage with you. So, I think that's a huge part. You got to figure out personality big time.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike, you're like, you live by that, right? Like having a vision coming in, and then you resonate with what he was just saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I just read this really awesome book. I think it's been around for a little bit while, but it's Way of the Shepherd. I can't remember the author right now, but that's one of the big things. He kind of like takes this. He's an MBA professor, right, teaching like through an MBA program at one of the top schools, and I think this was like the 50s or the 60s maybe. And he takes one of his students through like a couple of months long's worth of training of how to like actually lead people, not necessarily how to run a business. And that's one of the things that he does is he brings them first to look at these flock of sheep that he's got. And that's one of the things is knowing your sheep, right? You're absolutely right. Like knowing each individual person and treating that individual person as, an individual. That's it right there. Yeah. I recommend go buying it. I just bought an extra copy for one of my old dudes that works with me actually. So I love it. Nothing is new. But it is phenomenally written, just super easy to read, takes no time. But yeah, so that's one of the things he talks about is knowing your sheep, understanding like what makes them tick is one part of it, and then understanding too when something is wrong. Like if you truly know that person, you'll know when something's not right, and then you'll know how to intervene in the way that is specifically tailored to how they need to be intervened. So you're absolutely right. That's a huge part of it.
Dude, that I completely forgot about that. Knowing when something's wrong. That's and then how to engage with them when that problem is there.
Sure.
Because if you don't know anything about them, like, there's especially with teenagers. And I guess even older guys. You're constantly going through stuff, and then not everyone has that same coping skills or the same coping mechanisms. So some of them implode. Like we have one of the kids on our team. Graham. Knows is like there's some kids on our team that implode, and they like last year they were known for imploding. It's like, how do I stop that self implosion that releases out? Because it implodes at first, and you're like, okay, so it's not that big of an issue. You're just imploding within yourself, but then all of a sudden that implosion goes boom and just hits the whole team, and you're like, man, great, now I have to deal with this bigger problem. So,
yeah, absolutely, and that's super interesting. Like the implosion, I think that kind of makes me think of two things. Like number one, I've run into the same problem with, so I'm just coming out of a position where I had about 90 to 100 people that I worked like with, but I was responsible for, and the vast majority of my guys that are coming into the military are, 19, 20 years old, if they're new enlisted guys. And what I'm seeing is a lot of them, even the new lieutenants, the officers that I've got that are about 22 to 23 years old, the managers like underneath me they seem to have less of like a lower ability to cope with things that come up, like bad things, and I don't know if it's because they either haven't developed those skills, they haven't run into many major issues, but a lot of the times it takes like recognizing the skill is how I address it, like recognizing that they're going through something and then like talking them through that, which is really labor intensive, but it's so important, right? Because that's the responsibility that we have, like you with your team. you know, like you are like the shepherd, you know, you're carrying those guys through whatever they're going in the midst of a hockey game too. I can imagine that's nuts, right? Where somebody's running into an issue, right? And then the second thing that kind of leads into that is when one guy is having an issue, there's a huge tendency for the second guy and then the third guy and then the fourth guy to also feed off of that. And it's like a negative feedback loop where now everybody is running into this issue where it's like you've got one guy who has a problem, and if that problem is not addressed immediately or in the right way, it can spread to the rest of the team or the rest of the organization, which can be just absolutely detrimental to anywhere, you know, anything that you're doing, whether it be a hockey game or fixing trucks in a maintenance, you know, company.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Graham's gone. There he is. He's back now.
Graham Digit.
Yeah.
Click the wrong button. No, that's
Graham's
awesome.
like, and I'm out.
Yeah.
Oh, these guys are way smarter than me. I'm in too deep.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
And no, yeah, like I love what you brought up there, Cole, about these couple of, you know, just I think it's really all kids, right? Like, do you think do you guys both, do you think that that's like a technology thing? We're not being exposed to as many tough situations, or we can really easily remove ourselves from discomfort, so you're not forced to really develop resiliency. And is that a thing, do you think?
I mean, dude, I can see that. So before doing accounting, I actually, right after I graduated, I went to work for it's a home for kids that have behavioral issues. Like, that was kind of like my last resort. Like, do I really want to do accounting? And do I love psychology? And so I did it. And you see those kids, I mean, like, they're removed from technology altogether and they're still having those issues. But like, it definitely does feed it though, because in general, and it goes for everybody, but especially kids, that's when you, like you're saying, you learn those coping skills. There's coping skills, or you learn, everyone's learning coping skills. Are you learning the correct ones is the issue. So the coping skill is me feeling uncomfortable or overwhelmed. I'm gonna grab my phone. Like, I'm just gonna engage in Twitter or Instagram or whatever, TikTok, whatever it may be, to get my mind off the issue that I have, 20 returns I gotta get done by next week. Like, all right, but my mind's off it, so it's okay, no worries. But then when I get done with it, now it floods back, and I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. So same with the kids. They have, I gotta get homework done, or I can, be on Instagram. Like, okay, like, hey, someone made fun of me at school. I could address the issue. I could do all these other coping skills, or I can just be on my phone. Problem solved. So it definitely feeds it, I think. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, all the talk that you hear, psychiatrists talking and psychologists talking about this instant dopamine release that all these apps give you, and dopamine is meant to, like, bring you back up. So if you're down, you don't actually have to deal with the thing that brought you down. You can just come back up.
Exactly.
Have you guys heard of there's this really awesome book? I'm going to drop another one. Coddling of the American Mind. It's outstanding. Have you seen that one? It's fantastic. It sounds like you have. You're absolutely right. It hits the nail right on the head. And I think there's a couple of factors that play into it. And I'm by no means a psychologist, and I don't pretend to be. So, like, I might be out over my skis on this a little bit. So maybe I'll get corrected later. But, like, we've run in. There's a couple of things that kind of figured into, like, how we got to where we are, right? And all of them kind of started off good, but we're really seeing the negative side of it now. So one of them is the 24-hour news cycle hit us real quick, where that's it right there. Graham, you're quick with the Google. There's the 24-hour news cycle, right? Like, we had to fill it with something. So what happened is we had a lot of national stories that we'd kind of filled the news cycle with, but when it turned into 24 hours, we brought in, like, local stories and made them national, right? So one of the things that we brought, like, that sells is things that are terrible. So like kids going missing and abductions and that kind of stuff, right? So I don't know exactly when that happened, but when that started happening, parents became a little bit more concerned about letting their children just, like, run outside and play and stuff like that. So they became to, like, helicopter parents. And I'm 28. 28, 29. And I can't remember hockey. Remember that when we
Carry
started
to
out?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, remember hockey. But we, gosh, I gotta get back on this track. So this really like kind of impacted, I would say, part of my generation, and certainly the generation that's right following, like these kids who are 18, 19 years old. Because their parents kind of didn't let them take risks. They didn't let them learn and fail and kind of go outside and play and have these social interactions where, they're running into, other children. They're getting in fights, and they're learning how to deal with problems at their like themselves, instead of having like the authority deal with it for them. So that really like inhibited the coping skills. So these guys that we had in at 18, 19 years old, like I was really open about having people approach me, and I loved every single conversation I had. But like what that led to was a lot of me being like, hey, go talk to your NCO, go talk to your supervisor. Like, you don't need to talk to me. Like, go talk to that person. You don't need to talk to me. And it turned into a lot of like coaching sessions,
Wow, yeah.
Like, and that was kind of like what I took on. And Graham, you've heard me talk a bunch, where I encourage it. I encourage people to come talk to me, so that, I asked for it. But it was interesting. It was really interesting to see that instead of people like jumping at problems and solving it at themselves, they would come to the authority and then have the authority deal with it, right? Because that makes them win. It's the easy button. They don't have to do anything, and then they win based off of what they say.
Yeah.
I see Carter's. Yeah, I wanted to talk about Carter's thing
Yeah.
when we get a chance. That's a good comment, Carter. We got a second? Can I do it? Okay, I'll do it. That's certainly a problem, Carter. Great question, or comment, I suppose. I think there's a couple of things that play into that, especially kind of reflecting back on the 2 years that I was in command. It's almost like a naivety. Like they come in, like, or they're being naive. They just come in and they're young. They're like, yeah, I'm in the Army now. I'm gonna run through a wall. And then we're also running into this like old school Army versus new school Army, where the Army is trying to like be a little bit more understanding of people's feelings. And I think that both of them are kind of wrong, to be entirely honest, or not wrong, but like just off by a little bit. I always encourage people to have honest conversations about things that they're struggling with. One of the things, and one of the ways that I did that is I had this really outstanding leader who committed suicide. He was one of my first guys that I worked for. I had like one or two conversations, but this dude like embodied what it meant to be an Army leader, and he would make me want to like be so pumped to brief maintenance statistics on like trucks and stuff. Like he'd walk into the building and he'd be like, "What's up, American badasses? Like, talk to me about your maintenance stats." And I was like, "Let's go, sir. Let's do it." And I'd be pumped. And he committed suicide, right? And that's been a big thing in my life, just full transparency. Like my dad attempted suicide at one point in my life. So that's something I've had to deal with a couple of times. So what I did is I brought everybody in and I say like, hey, look, here's the deal. This guy, you might know him, committed suicide recently. It's extremely difficult. Like, I want you to talk to me about it. If you have anything, do you want to talk to me about it? And I told him like, I'm really struggling with it, because I feel like he was the best of us. And, if that doesn't, if he's capable of it, and I like talked through my emotions and what I was feeling, but I did that in front of all of my soldiers, and then I said, hey, also, my dad committed suicide or attempted suicide at one point, and it was extremely difficult for me. And I understand too, because I've been in positions where I felt, this like darkness and heaviness that you can't get through. And I broke it down and like, look, we're all humans, and if you ever need anything at all, here's my phone number. And I gave every single soldier that was in the organization, like all 100 of them, I told them to whip out their phones and write down my phone number and said, if you ever need anything at all, you give me a call. And thank God I never had a call from a soldier, at 1 o'clock in the morning or something saying I'm struggling, but like they knew that I was there for them. So it's super long-winded, Carter, but like to answer that, I think that like we need to stop looking at it as a weakness and understand and acknowledge that it is a problem, and that people do struggle with things that they need to struggle. And if they need help, get them the help, and then make sure that there's no repercussion for it. Your feelings are a weakness. Like you can, everybody feels something. And like I personally have been to counseling a couple of times about a couple of different problems. I've done it for my marriage, like it's not a weakness. It makes you stronger. And like I have an outstanding marriage and I love my wife to death because I've gotten help, because I'm not very smart, and there's other people who are way smarter than I am,
Yeah.
So, It'd be
No,
silly
that's
not to ask for help, you know?
that's yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
I got
really,
the 100%. You're the man. Thanks.
yeah, that's a really great point. Like a lot of us, well, I mean, hell, you go to school, right? I went to
Mhm.
school. I got my master's in business, but I never went to school to be a father. I never went to school
Right.
to be a husband.
That's a
So,
great
you know,
point.
you're really just left to settle with your life skills that you're handed. And a lot of these kids, and it's not just military either, right? Like
Mhm.
this is a generation of people who are coming to a workplace. Like Cole, what's your experience with, you know, with getting people together outside of
Dude,
hockey?
I mean, well, so like, I mean, kind of piggyback off what he's saying. Like, I mean, so you got these people going on, like they have life outside of whatever you're doing. I mean, it's coaching. Like, so if you're playing hockey, you're in the army, you're in the military, you're doing whatever you're doing, you're at your job. You still have a life outside of that. So if I'm thinking like purely selfish as a like business owner or someone in as a leader, and I have people underneath me, if I want them to be the most proficient and the most efficient at doing that job, I have to realize like your mind is a valuable piece of info. Like it's just a valuable piece of you. So I got to make sure that's working the best it can, and that entails emotions. And so I got to make sure that those are under, I'd say, a better stability. Like they have some sort of stable block to build on. Because if they don't, then you're not helpful to me. And that's just thinking selfishly, right? Like if I'm
Mhm.
only looking out for me being efficient as a business owner. But then now, if I'm thinking of, I mean, just being a good person, it's like, hey, like I want you to be a good, like I just want you to be doing better mentally. Like I mean, like you shouldn't worry about this. Worry about you, and then, like you said, I mean, those emotions aren't weaknesses at all. And unfortunately, I feel like that's an old school thought of like men need to be the tough macho dude, and just like you have that feeling, bottle that shit up and don't talk about it ever. And you're like,
Yeah,
no, like that stuff eventually boils over, and then it's gonna unload somehow. Like whatever it may be, it's gonna explode out. And in one case, in some cases, it is with people taking their own life because they're like, I have nowhere to go with this, and this feeling is stuck in me. I have nothing to do with it, and I want it gone. And they see that as unfortunately the only way out. And it's like, nope, we can't do that. We have to help them before that point. So I mean, work wise, I see it as I need my people working the best, so I got to help them to help me. So I mean, hopefully that answers your question.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This is really good. I also wanted to share like we've kind of went into a couple of tough subjects here with suicide and that, and that if this is difficult for anybody, that you're listening, like there's I'm going to drop this here. If that this is the number for the suicide hotline, and the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Nobody's alone. This is definitely a difficult conversation,
Yeah,
difficult things that we're talking about. I think all three of us are all willing to, like, if you want to have a chat about this, like, we don't know you, we don't have to know you. Reach out.
Mhm.
for sure.
It's
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Um, so, like, talking about both of you guys, what do you guys think about getting the right people, like, or getting people in the right seats, right? Like, you're a hockey coach, you get the team of kids that sign up. You have no choice about that. Mike, you get the team of people who are put on orders and they come to you. So,
Yeah.
as and I think every company runs into this, that they don't always get, a choice in who they hire, right? The company gets to decide, but the department, the person who
Yeah.
that, the team that person actually winds up on. How do you go about this? What do you think about people in the right seats? What are your guys' thoughts?
Dude, for hockey, it's a bit different. I feel like I don't know. I feel like it's almost easier because I can easily gauge like what your like skill levels in certain things. Like I mean, pretty quickly. Like, hey man, like you're backwards skating, maybe not the hottest, so defense isn't your strong suit, or at least like we're not going to start you there. Like we're going to build up your backwards skating, and then I can maybe look at your how you play and skate backwards we can go into that. I mean, so for me, I feel like it's almost a little, it's like a cheat code. I get to instantly decipher that. I mean, whereas I mean, in the military, I don't know how he does that. So, I mean, that's all you, man.
No, I think you're kind of underselling yourself a little bit. Like, I mean, the way that I look at it is like a team's a team, right? And like there's skills that you need to
Yeah.
have, and it all comes back to knowing your people, right? Like, so if you can't skate backwards, like I can't skate frontwards, so I probably should be the equipment manager, right? So like, you know,
Yeah, you're goalie.
but I
You're
might be.
goalie.
I'm super good at counting it. I'm super good at counting stuff, so I could be really good at it. But like that's what it runs into is just like knowing your people, understanding and recognizing that like just because they are in a certain like season, or like just because one is older than the other, or they've been in the military longer than the other, or like one has been skating longer than the other, doesn't mean that they ultimately get priority, right? So like I think valuing skill over like time in service or time participating or whatever, or even like for me personally rank and grade, is where you need to start with that, right? And the way that you do that is by knowing your people. So shuffling people around and maybe being unconventional in how you solve problems. Like maybe for you, like your draw of people, you don't really have control over it for hockey. You're like specifically, in your league, right? Like same thing. I don't have really control over the draw of soldiers I have. I can kind of wheel and deal, but ultimately it's who I get. So one of the things that we did to address that problem is like, I came in and we kind of had like a structure that didn't really make sense to me and didn't really make sense to some of the soldiers. So we just restructured our organization in a way that would allow more people to, get information more efficiently, and then kind of manage people, manage their people both in maintenance and then like the other side of the admin stuff and training that we had to do. And it was unconventional because like the Army kind of tells you how to do something, right? Like the Army tells you that you need to have like one platoon or like one, you have your company and then you have like your underneath, right? So you have, I'm trying to like make it into a, you know, kind of take away the Army lingo out of it. But basically it's like you have like multiple departments that run certain, areas of in certain functions, right? You have certain specific areas, right? So what we ended up doing was like, okay, so we're going to kind of, instead of having it one big conglomeration, we're going to break it down and we're going to separate responsibilities. And like, by the Army might say your responsibility is X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to add A, B, and C to it. And then I'm going to take away Z and give it to these guys, right? Just because that made a little bit more sense because of, where we are. Like we're in Alaska and it's super unique about like the things that we've got to deal with, right? So we adjusted all of those different, took into everything into consideration, took into like where my leaders were and how, like what were their skills and what are the soldiers' skills, and then how can we like adjust everything to fit and so that we can accomplish the mission the best. And sometimes it looked like Frankenstein, but it worked, so who cares,
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
That's dope. So both of you guys, what I've liked about both of you guys is that both of you guys have really high energy levels. Mike, you came into the organization and I've seen you come in and just like you come in at a 10 and you remain a 10. And Cole, you're the same way, man. Like you take on a team, and we've seen kids come onto the hockey team. We start the year in September, and we've seen like new kids just move here and they join the team in like December, and they get the same amount of like definition of goal and vision and coaching and clarity and enthusiasm as the kids got at the very beginning of the season. I love that. Like, what are you guys like? What are your guys' thoughts? Like, what keeps you doing that, maintaining energy, throughout the life of that team?
Oh,
I'll jump on that one if you don't mind,
yeah,
because like
I think entirely.
sorry, I love this because it comes down to responsibility, right? Like I think I take super seriously like the position that God has put me in, right? Like wherever I am in life. So if it's a father, like dude, I need to be great at that because I have a responsibility to ultimately God, but my family as well. And the same thing of the position that I'm in as far as like the organization. So I think for me the biggest thing was understanding that like I'm not just doing it for myself, and I'm having to remind myself constantly that it's not for me, right? Like the better that I am at like organizing, the better that I am at, like with my energy coming in, the more like pumped I am to be in the organization. It kind of like reflects, right? So like who I am, as like on a day to day will like reflect down to the lowest level. And stuff as silly as like one of my big things is Graham is like even in texts, like I think I texted you this today. I was like, yo, like that was like my like I just do that. I don't really know where I got it from, but like that was like I remember at one point I had like a soldier be like, yo, sir. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, don't say that. That's my thing. And they're like, oh, well, everyone says it. I was like, no, we don't. And then I realized like, they just kind of reflect you. So like, I kind of as you roll with it, right? Like that was one of the big, another big thing I learned was like, they'll feed off of you, right? And like if you really truly like love your people and love the people that you're working with, you've got to like put them first. There's days where I'm just my boss was like wanting something that was really like extremely difficult to accomplish. I had to figure out a way to do it, and like everyone knew it was going to be very difficult to accomplish, but I had to take ownership of it and just get after it. Otherwise nothing would happen. So knowing one that like as the head of the organization, to kind of boil it down, that how I act and respond to problems, people will likely act and respond the same way. And then before that too is like I have an obligation to these people, the soldiers, the employees, whatever, to give them everything that I've got as a leader.
Dude, you kind of steal some of my thought process, but it works.
Let me hear it. I want to hear it.
So it's the right idea. I mean, for me, I come in with being goofy because I know, let's be real, like 16, 17-year-olds, they're gonna be judging everything you do. At first, so I actually coached 8 years ago, I coached U16 too, and like I was really like hypercritical of myself of like, okay, I don't want them. I know, they're going to be trying to make fun of me. And like, I don't want to do that. I want to kind of be that friend. And I was like, no, I can't do that. Like, I'm just going to be goofy because it's me. And it's showing like, you be the best you, like, just enjoy being you, like enjoy doing whatever you're doing. And then it also shows them when I'm upset, like I'm showing emotions. You can too. This is the positive way of doing it. Like I'm pissed during a game, I'm not going to be like, hey guys, I'm really upset right now. We should solve this problem. I'm like, hey guys, like, dude, we got to solve this. And like, this is me being serious now. Like it's a different step, and it changes that, that drive now. Like, and also like as teenagers, I don't know what's going on. Again, back to that. I don't know what's going on in your life. Let me be at least some excitement. I may be goofy. You may make fun of me. By all means, if it lightens your day up, I'm all for it, because then now maybe you're a little bit happier when you came here and when you leave than when you first came. So I'm all for it. So it helps you out, helps me out in the long run as a coach. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I hear is like authenticity,
Yeah.
Like you were like, if you're like a goofy guy and knowing that you're a goofy guy, then like do that.
Yep.
What I think people like run into the problem when they try to be something that they're just absolutely not, right? And that like will turn off more people more quickly than I think anything I've ever seen, because they're just not gonna believe anything that you say. So if they say like we need to get serious now, they're like, but do I? Because they won't believe it.
That's exactly what happened. Like, dude, first starting coaching, I tried to be that tough, serious coach, and I'm a naturally just like that high energy. Like Graham's saying, I'm naturally just I like to constantly move and stuff, and so I'm like happy, and then like, hey guys, let's skate. Like they were like, okay,
yeah, right.
What are you doing? Like, no, like
you're being the guy with the whistle, like again.
Yeah, it's like again, like you're like, no, we both know you're. No. If anything, I was the assistant coach in that movie. I was the nice guy that was like, right. I mean, like he nailed it perfectly. Like we talk about emotions and leading a team. Like Herb Brooks was a genius in that, because he even realized like in that old school hockey thought was like, oh, I still need to have emotional connection, not with me, but you can be friends with the assistant coach. I'm going to be the guy you hate. Like, and together, you're going to hate me, which is cool. And then you can like this guy, and he'll help you with emotional stuff. So that's fun. So,
right. And in both situations, like what it boils down to is trust, right? Because if I can't trust you to be who you are as a human being, I can't trust you with anything, and like, it's really interesting, like the philosophy, again, I'm not a philosopher, but I've like read a couple of books and articles, right? like, like we as human beings, like, just kind of naturally need someone to push us in a certain direction, right? And like it's really interesting, just the idea of leadership, right? Like that it's just kind of naturally develops in everything. Like in every organization there's always like a dude who's in charge, and I'm from California, so dude means literally anything. It means like
Everything and
it
everyone.
means boy or girl, it means man, woman. It also means my kitchen sink because it wasn't working. I said dude earlier.
Yeah.
And so, but it's really, really interesting that like we've like everywhere across the world, you've got like, whether it's 100 people, whether it's 10,000 people, there's always a group of people or a person that's in charge. And it's all based on this idea of trust, right? Because these people lift you up as the person to make decisions for what's best for everyone, make the hard decisions so that the long-term goal is met. And if they can't trust you just to be a human being that you are, like they're not going to trust you to make the decisions that are best for everyone and down the future, right? And that's just where everything's going to fall apart. And then you suck at hockey, and that's not cool.
It's the worst. Yeah.
It's the worst. It's the worst. What was that question? I don't know. I like this. Carter's my man.
He nailed it.
Carter says, yeah, as a leader, if you frame a problem, that's going to be how your employees frame it.
Dude, yep. Dude,
that's it.
We actually just deal with that. I mean, so right now our team, I mean, it's kind of a weird point. It's like we're just dealing with that. Like it's the idea that negative energy feeds off of negative energy. So whatever's going on in the locker room or on the ice as like the team cohesion, it's so if they're being negative on the bench. And so me and our assistant coach, who Graham knows, Coach Mike, dude, so we jump on it where it's you chirping on your own teammate and just giving them shit about like, oh, you didn't make that pass that well, or you're not skating hard. Like, how is that helping? Like that's like there's in my head almost like red flags all over the place in that whole sentence for so many different reasons. Like, okay, one, you're ripping on them. Like they're not going to be like, oh, hey, thanks for, letting me know in that very aggressive way. I'm going to change my ways now. Like, thanks, man. Like they're going to be like, dude, like screw you. Like, I don't want to be here now. And then, so the other thing is like, instead of telling them, hey, don't do this, or like, you're sucking at this, give them a better option for what they can do to fix the problem. Because you say don't do something, that doesn't solve the problem to them. That just gives them one way of not how to do it. So it's like, hey, I noticed you tried to make that pass. It didn't work out. Let's, maybe try to use the boards and then I can pick it up. Or hey, if you can skate that, go for it. Now you're giving them possible solutions, and it helps out with yourself and that cohesion, that chemistry with your line mate, with your team. So like being negative, I mean, Carter nailed it. If you be negative, it's going to feed and it almost kind of boils with each other. And then just, again, implosion, explosion all over again. So if you're positive, they feed on that grows too. So.
Yeah. And it's the interesting thing about negativity is it's so like, I don't know, it's like intoxicating to us. Cause like, I don't know, we're wired to look for the bad thing so that we can like protect ourselves from it. Right. And I think that just what happens is we see a bad thing and we attack it. And then if there's a guy who's just constantly negative, man, like it is a cancer. You're absolutely right. I like you bring up a really interesting point too about like the guy who's chirping at his like his teammates, I think it's so tough because like Kobe Bryant, like is a good, like I love Kobe Bryant, just like his mentality, right? So cool. Yeah. But like that works for Kobe Bryant, I think. If you're not Kobe Bryant, like don't do that, like have the mentality where you're the hardest working person in the room. But like, dude, I mean, Kobe Bryant would rip his teammates apart, and he was able to do that because everybody in the NBA and the entire world that he knew, he's like one of the greatest basketball players. I personally believe the best ever. He's better than LeBron. I don't care what you say. I said it. I'm a Lakers fan. Like, he's on the Lakers right now, so I can say it. But like Kobe Bryant could do that because Kobe Bryant was the hardest working person always, and he was one of the best players to ever live. So he had those like accolades where it's like, dude, like you're not on my level. Like you need to get onto it or you need to go home. But that doesn't work for everyone. So like I think. Like that was one of the really difficult things that I think, and that I'm still really trying hard to learn, is like, how can you be a positive influence to your peers, right? And like leading down is easy. Leading like up is like, like you can kind of be good with words and you can manipulate that's really what leadership is in the end of it. But like, you know, leading laterally when you're the same rank, same position, where people have no reason to believe any or no reason to listen to you at all is so hard. And I think it all comes down to like, here's another one, third book. Let's see how many I can get. How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? Like that's a super easy, like I think everyone's heard of that one. But like that one is so good. Like when you're talking about like how do you like lead to the left and the right of you? Like how do you lead people who are on the same, you know, like a level, I guess. And it all comes down to like building the rapport, and then like building the rapport. He really argues for like feeding ego, which is a really big part of it. So it's like, hey, like you said, feed the ego, right? Like, hey man, like, dude, so I like the idea. That was super aggressive for that pass. I love it. Like, let's go score. Maybe we got to let the play develop just a little bit. So in the future, like, let's do that, but like keep the aggression. You know what I mean? So instead of just ripping into it, and of course there's a time and place to rip in. You know, that goes without saying. Like if you're like, I don't know, doing backflips or something as a goalie, you probably shouldn't do that, right? But like, you should, hey, stop being dumb, you know. But that's it, man. I was like, is building that rapport just through like just constant, you know, engagement with that. It's awesome. I'm going to need your book club, man. I don't know.
Seriously, dude. No wicked book club going on here.
They just come up. I don't even remember. It's not really a book club. It's like an audio book thing because I drive a lot. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, well, so I mean, I'm a kind of jump on the same thing that you're talking about. I mean, I actually I watched the Last Dance, the Netflix special of MJ and like the Bulls in the '90s, right? Like, so he does the same thing. I mean, so I'm gonna go against you. MJ's the best ever, but I mean, Kobe's right there. Kobe's right there with him. But I mean, it's the same mentality though. Where like they said the same thing. I mean, like so right after they lost. I mean, I think it was right after they lost the Pistons. Like they went right into working out instantly. And like he just started ripping on people like really hard, and they were like, it was a different side of him, but they just like you said, it was because of the fact that because he was the hardest working guy there. Like what are you gonna say to me? Like I'm ripping on you, but I'm also working out 18 hours basically. Like what are you doing? Like I'm wanting to win this. Show me you want to win this too. And so there's that different level, and there's that place for it, like you said. I mean, it definitely it's a perfect timing though with that. You have to really manage that fairly well with that.
It's so nuanced, like how you apply that. You know what I mean? Like you have to do it in the absolute right place at the right time to the right person in the right way. You know, and it's like takes just so much time, like really deliberate, like study is really the only way to talk about it. My I'm a super passionate person. I love like teams doing well. I just love to win. Really, is what it kind of comes down to. And I'm so like super aggressive like with it. And I played soccer since I was like 4 years old, and I still love it to this day. But I was like, I've always been, like I have this, like, Grammy said, the energy, right? So that energy would come out in a way that was that exact thing, right? Like I've always kind of been like for soccer, like you got like the defense, right? And I was never really skilled or fast enough to be a forward, and I could kick the ball real far, so they put me in the back, and then I would yell at people. I'd move things, I'd direct things, right? But that passion would come out when something kind of came wrong, or like I would give a direction to somebody, and I'd be like the dude who was kind of overall responsible for that, like that back 3 or 4, whatever you're playing. I would rip into them, right? And it never worked for me, and it took me like to stop playing soccer to realize, like, dude, there's a better way to do that, and it's crazy. It's really, really crazy because, like, you just spend some time reading a couple of books, and people who've done it before you can stand on top of their lifetime of knowledge. That's why I think the reading is so important, or listening to podcasts and stuff, and doing stuff like this, because, like, you've both have lived, I don't know, more life, I guess, that's different than mine, right? Like your life is totally different. I'm not saying you're older, Graham, you're older. I don't really know how old you are. So, but like you guys have lived different lives than I have, right? So
Yeah.
like, if you have the opportunity to, you know, sit on somebody else's like lifetime of lessons learned, like you need to take advantage of it, you know, otherwise you're just kind of, you're fooling yourself thinking that you know everything, and you just kind of are dumb.
Yeah. No, dude, you nailed it. I mean, I don't know anyone else's experiences besides my own, and then
Sure.
and what I've heard from other people. So to better myself and to think I know everything is insane. Like you're really crazy if you go, hey, I know all. Like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Like the minute you say you know all is the minute you should honestly start rechecking yourself. Like, oh crap, like something bad's gonna happen.
I need to,
Yeah, because that's whenever you
you'll
say
get humbled real quick.
yeah, whenever you say I know all, or I'm all good, I'm solid, I don't need anything, that's when like almost like everything starts going wrong, or like you get get humbled real fast. And so that's where like you're saying, learning from other people, listening to books, reading the books, doing podcasts, all that stuff, it's all perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I learned that one from you ever see The Queen's Gambit? It's on Netflix. It's way good. Like it's crazy how it's crazy how like
you didn't
No, it was Netflix. No, it was just like a good TV show. It was about like I can't remember like the time frame, but like this girl learns how to play chess, and she learns by reading books. And like that's where she was like, yeah, I mean, like I have this guy spent his entire life playing chess, wrote down every single one of his games, and I'm 18 years old. I've read every single one of his games, and I'm just as good as them because I have 60 years of experience in a book that I read, right? And it just comes down to like,
that's good.
Yeah. She ends up beating him. I think she was like 20, and the dude is like 60. You know, and they're like, "What? He's the best ever." So,
well, hey guys, we're at 56 minutes. And like, man, as much as we could keep talking about, like we could get into deep things like managing conflict and having good problem solving skills and holding people accountable and you know, all this other stuff. And God, I wish we had time. But like if there was one last thing, Mike, that you wanted to drop on anybody who's getting ready to take charge of a new team, what would you give them?
yeah, I love your people. Like, and don't just like, hey, I really like you guys. Like, no, love them. Like treat them like you're part of your family. And then show them how much you care, and then they'll be able to they'll want to work with you and for you, and your team will work so much better because like it'll trickle down, like we've been talking about, you know, like if I'm showing that, like, you know, the subordinate guys will show that to each other, and then it's like a synergetic effect, man. Like you can get the most out of people, you know, better than you realize.
That's dope. Cole, what you got, man?
All right, I saved this quote because I found this quote like maybe like say 3 months ago, and then like when you're like, hey dude, like how do you do that, you know, like you asked about doing this, and I was like, all right, I'm all for it, like you know, this is dope. So I found this quote and I wrote it down. I actually keep it, it's at my house and at work here. So it's, look at a man the way that he is and he only becomes worse, but look at him as if what he were, and then what he could be, then he becomes what he should be. So
that's really good.
So my thing is like, I realize like it all encompasses everything I truly believe in, like as a coach and just as a person, and as when I work, is, you know, if I see someone like, oh, this player is just this guy, like that's all he is, that's what he's going to be, and he's not going to grow. And unfortunately, no growth means you kind of get worse. Like you just you're complacent, and so it's, oh crap. Well, if I can see what you can be as a coach, like, hey, I think you can do this. All right, you know, I think honestly, if you do everything you can, oh, go for it. And then they're gonna grow. Maybe not exactly what I think, but they can get on that. You know, they can get on that track. And then so exactly, yeah. So I heard that, and I'm like, so I listened to those during my workout, and I heard that, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. And then you asked, and I was like, yeah, perfect timing. So.
Dude, that is, because that's the human brain in one like sentence, right? Like perception is you know,
reality. Yeah.
Reality. So, I was gonna say a mother, but
yeah, I mean that is so good.
There you go. Yeah, you got me.
Perception is your reality. Yeah, I love that, man. Look at a man the way he is, and he'll only become worse. But look at him as if he were what he could be, then he becomes what he should be. That's awesome, man. I have saved this to my desktop. I gotta look at that every day. So I'll try to wrap this up real quick. Everything that, like, all this awesome stuff that you guys just dropped on everybody. I'm so happy to be able to bring you guys together. I wish Jeff could have made it. Man, we started off, we talked about like being someone that people want to be around, right? Like there's a ton of like, this is why I love having these conversations, because there's a ton of crap you can find all over the internet about building high performing teams. But everything that you guys touched on is like not generally there, you know, like it's maybe there in a broader scope, but all this stuff, like being somebody that people want to be around, like that's in my words, that's in your words, that's in things that we relate to. That's awesome. Individualize your leadership style. You guys talked about talking with your people and finding out kind of what makes them tick, and being the leader that individual needs you to be, so that you can develop a better team. That's awesome. You guys hit on like being able to know when something is wrong, right? So it's not just about building this team around a thing that's going to go well and we're going to move off, but knowing your people so well that you know when something's wrong, so you can kind of like capture that in a small bubble, contain it so it doesn't affect all the rest, or bring in the group as you need to help build that person back up, right? And then plug them back in and keep the team going. Leading with empathy by teaching resiliency and like coaching through it. That's a big thing. Like, I don't know that a lot of people talk about this, like being a leader, being a manager means managing a couple of people to accomplish a task, but being a leader means coaching and helping them find their own solutions. And we talked about a lot of this generational stuff. It's dope. If you care for the individuals, then it's going to affect the whole team. I can't remember which one of you guys said that. I think both of you guys said it in your own words. It's like Cole's pointing down. This is like the Brady Bunch now.
Is that accurate? Like, are we all? Am I looking at what we're actually seeing? Okay, good.
Yeah,
it's backwards for me. So that's sorry.
Yeah, you said like getting people into their positions where they're strong, but not only that, like you guys hit on like, get the people in the right seats. But then Coach Cole, you said like develop them in their weaknesses still. Like they may have to fill in. And Mike, you hit on that too. Like you might have to step up. So you've got to like fill people where they're strong, utilize them there, but continue to develop. You guys hit on defining individuals, like defining their individual like responses in alignment to the team and their goal. So how do you like take individuals and align them on the team's goal? Maintaining energy. We talked about that, like maintaining energy so that when new people come in, they get the same amount of onboarding and injection of just excitement as everybody else got. People are going to reflect you as a leader, good or bad. And this is something like as you were talking, Mike, like I got to take a serious look at myself in some of the teams that I'm on, because I am definitely the cynical person who's just like the grumpy old guy.
No, man, you are the realist. You're the one who's never going to lie to me.
Right.
You're gonna tell me the big is ugly.
That's facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like
that's a skill.
People are going to reflect that, right? And all the junior people really can't reflect that. They shouldn't be. So people are going to reflect you. Be aware of that, good or bad. They're going to reflect you. Be you, dude. I love that. Like, be you. People are going to know what to expect then. They're going to know, like, hey, we're here to practice. I'm, like, what is it, Step Brothers? Like, it says I'm professional, but I'm here for a good time. Right? But then show up show up the same way to every circumstance, right? Show up as you every time so people know what to expect. Gaining emotional connection was big. Trusting what, or basically what you guys said was all of this equals trust. Develop trust, and read books. Read books or listen to audiobooks or podcasts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Did I get it all?
Yeah, get all the information.
I think so. Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna write a book about everything we just talked about tonight. Like, you guys are awesome.
And he's gonna read it, and then he'll read it he'll read it and regurgitate it back to us.
Yeah.
This one time. Yeah, his name's like, it's like Michael or something. I don't really know how to pronounce his name. I'll do it under a pseudonym.
Shit, dude, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
If people want to connect with you, Cole, where can they find you at, man? Online, social media, where at?
They can find me. I don't even know my tag handle, but they can find me on Instagram. I think it's younger.cole. I think it's really simple. They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me Facebook. They can find me at the hockey rink. They can find me apparently, anywhere at this point. Just Google me. It's a little harder. Cole Younger is the outlaw, so it might be harder to find, but yeah.
All right.
That's funny.
Awesome. Well, if you can't find Cole, reach out to me. I'll connect you. Mike, what about you, man?
Through Graham. I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to link up with me there, that's probably the best place to do it. I'm pouring some energy into that. I'm also on, my wife's on staff, and I run a young adults ministry with the Crossing in Birchwood up in Eagle River, Alaska, or Chugiak, Alaska, kind of around the border. So, cheap plug at the Crossing. I'll see you guys there Sunday, huh?
Sweet. Awesome, man.
There you go.
All right. Well, hey, thank you guys for coming on. This has been awesome. Thanks everybody for watching and that. And then you guys just hang on, and I'll go ahead and end this broadcast, and we'll hang around and talk a little bit more. All right. I'll see you in a minute.